Hi, I'm Vince Molinari, and welcome to Fintech TV. We're broadcasting from the iconic New York Stock Exchange, and I'd like to welcome Mrinal Manohar, who is the co-founder and CEO of CasperLabs. Mrinal is a seasoned operator. He previously led the technology, media, and telco sector at Sagard Holdings and worked in North American private equity for the TMT sector at Bain Capital. Well, let's jump right in. Mrinal, thank you for coming in today. So fascinated with everything that Casper is doing. Maybe to start us off, tell us about CasperLabs.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here, Vincent. Thanks for having me over. Wow, I love the energy of this place.
Go. Yeah. Nothing like the New York Stock Exchange.
Nothing like the NYSE. CasperLabs is the creator of the Casper network, which is a completely open source, decentralized blockchain. However, the focus is primarily on being enterprise grade and government ready in a way that no other blockchain really is. And CasperLabs as a company continues development of this open source blockchain, but very importantly, we work with large enterprises, governments, and businesses of all sizes to help them utilize the technology primarily for track and trace, audit, as well as trading and liquidity.
So I want to dive in there a little bit. So one doesn't think openly as open source and having that level of security, perhaps the enterprise, I don't know if we call them clients when you look at the government, but that's a whole different focus that doesn't seem like anybody else has been able to crack that code, no pun intended.
Yeah, no one's been able to crack it, which is strange, and there are reasons for it. I'd like to use an analogy, right? We saw the exact same thing happen with Linux. Linux was open source, and people were like, hey, if it's open source, it's not that secure. Hey, it's just a bunch of kids doing some libertarian pranks out there on the side. Everything that's being leveled against blockchain infrastructure today was said about Linux in the past.
Interesting.
But then Red Hat came along and really formalized it. And, Red Hat ended up being a multi-billion-dollar company. Everyone is using, like today, if you took out your phone and you read the news, you used Linux. Your data was fed to you via Linux. Similarly, a decade from now, you will be using blockchain technology and you won't even know it. The industry just needs a Red Hat.
So somewhere before the Red Hat, here we are at some point in the cycle. Where do you think we are in adoption when we talk about businesses with blockchain?
We're at a state where people are realizing the underlying value of blockchain. And I think this is a very important point for your viewership. Blockchain, just like cloud computing before it, just like Linux before it, is interesting because it saves cost. If it doesn't, there's no real use of a technology. All these technologies have become huge because they save cost. Blockchain, because it's tamper-proof by nature, and you can't really change the history, it provides an amazing audit trail and a level of copy protection that no other technology can provide at that low cost. And so businesses are beginning to realize that. So we recently did a survey of about 600 C-level executives at businesses of all sizes. Zogby actually did it on our behalf. If people want access to that survey, they can actually go to our website, CasperLabs.io, and download it. But a really interesting insight there was 87% of CIOs and CTOs say they want to adopt blockchain technology sometime in the next year or two. That's a really high number. And bear in mind, this survey went out just when the FTX thing happened and sentiment for the industry was at an all-time low. However, of that 87%, something like 55, I don't remember the exact number, conflate blockchain and crypto. They're not the same thing. Blockchain's a technology, crypto's an application on top of it. And second, they're like, yeah, I want to use this, but I don't know how, and I need someone to help me out. And that's a lot of what we do. We try to help them out. So I think there's a lot of embedded interest when people understand what it is about, but there's a lot of miseducation about what the technology actually is. And it's being confused for being something that it's not. Everyone thinks it's all about crypto. It's not.
Well, and it's a fantastic point that you continually run into, right? Synonymous blockchain and crypto, and you decouple that and get into a use case like you're doing here, seems to be getting some traction. Tell me a little bit about some of the marquee customers from the business side that are now working with Casper.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't name too many because we're under NDA, but I will talk about a couple of exciting ones. So one marquee thing that we did was, along with IBM, we helped IPWeek create, a patent marketplace. If you think about it, patents are incredibly valuable and they sit on companies' balance sheets, but there's no way to monetize them. And with a safe blockchain solution, and they also incorporate elements of AI, which is a very complementary technology with blockchain, they're able to create a platform that basically made the liquid, which patents, if you think about it, could be its own asset class. There's
Absolutely.
probably hundreds of billions of dollars worth of patents out there in aggregate. So that's one marquee thing. And with IBM, we are actually approaching lots of large customers together, which is really, really exciting. Another one I'd like to talk about, especially on the government side, because we're public about it, is the government of Telangana in India, which is a very progressive state, really looking to use blockchain technology for a variety of things like invoice factoring, education credentialing, etc. Again, these are all things that become much cheaper to do when you have an underlying tamper-proof technology.
I want to jump quickly into artificial intelligence. You can't turn on any kind of media broadcast and not hear something about AI these days. How does that play into, or does it? Maybe I should start there. Does AI play into what you're building at all?
Actually, AI without blockchain, I think, doesn't work. And there are three specific reasons. So while I won't say like, oh, we're an AI blockchain company, blockchain itself can be used alongside AI to make it a lot safer. Let me tell you how. So there's three things. First, AI, when we're stepping back, it's really you feed it data, and based on the data you fed, it'll make automated decisions. And we've seen issues, right? Like HR AIs like having some prejudice while sorting resumes or facial detection. The problem is the data sets that went in and what came out, that's all a black box. Blockchain could make that black box not a black box anymore. Like if your data set reconciliation was all done on blockchain, which is tamper-proof, your version control and making sure appropriate data sets are going in is a much easier process. Your ability to track and trace what happened with your AI goes up. The second thing is, if you want to avoid the Skynet scenario, you need a good kill switch. And the best kill switches are the ones that are decentralized and there's no single point of failure. So if you want to stop a rogue AI, the best ways to make sure that its access to power, etc., is governed by a blockchain layer, which by nature is much harder to corrupt, and a decentralized system. And then finally, blockchain can be really, really good to create incentivization mechanics to train AIs. Like, why would people give up their time to train an AI? And maybe if you create an incentivization mechanic with blockchain, you can. Now, if you notice, with all these things, you could arguably do some of these things with other technologies. It would just cost you incredible amounts of money.
Back to the cost savings.
It's all about cost savings, right? You could do this very, very cheaply with blockchain, and you have a great, rigorous system. And that's really what it's all about.
We're running out of time, but maybe if you can give me your brief view, if you have one, on the regulatory environment here, particularly in the U.S. Lots happening without regulators.
I mean, I don't want to go too deep into this, but I will say two things. One, I think what the industry needs is regulatory clarity more than anything. I think right now we're operating where there's no clarity, where we have to guess what the SEC likes or doesn't like, which is not good. And the second thing I'd say is, I'd urge regulators to still foster innovation. The cost-saving potential, the transparency potential of blockchain technology is really, really huge. And, we don't want the United States to cede an industry to other parts of the globe.
Especially so early, right?
Yeah, especially so early. So, of course, go after bad actors as necessary, but regulatory clarity, and let's still continue to be a bastion of innovation. I think that's important.
Great. Appreciate all the insights and everything you're doing at Casper. Have to have you come back again and give us an update.
I will, absolutely. Thank you, Vince.
Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.